Understanding Islam in 30 minutes. Why does Islam instill fear in the world? Today you might have seen this magnificent scene. At the center of a vast square, a towering black cube stands in all its imposing glory. Around this cube, countless Muslim devotees clad in white robes form a boundless ocean, swirling in circles like ripples on the sea. This black cube in Arabic is called K, which means square house. In addition, it is also known as Kaaba or sea, one of the three holy sanctuaries of Kaaba, located in Mecca, the holy city of Islam, regarded as the earthly dwelling place of Allah. Every year, millions of Muslim devotees from all over the world make the pilgrimage here. Although unfortunate stampedes have occurred several times, the yearning of the faithful to reach this sacred sanctuary remains undiminished. Pilgrimage to Mecca is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Every Muslim who is of age and financially and physically capable must perform it at least once in their lifetime. So what secret does Mecca's Kaaba hold that makes it one of the greatest religious events and also yields one of the largest sources of income in the world? Why does the practice of child marriage still persist in some Muslim communities? And what connects Islam with today's terrorism? Let us explore the mysteries behind all these aspects right now. Mecca is located in western Arabia, beneath ancient mountains about 80 kilometers from the Red Sea. Since ancient times, this place has served as an important transit point along trade routes. Here is a satellite image of Mecca, set amidst golden sands with pristine white structures. The Great Mosque of Mecca, one of the most magnificent architectural wonders in the world, covering an area of up to 356,000 meters squares. This is the largest mosque in Islam and also the most expensive construction ever undertaken. After numerous expansions, its cost has approached $1,000 billion, equivalent to 66 Burj Khalifa towers in Dubai. All the walls, domes, staircases, and corridors inside the Great Mosque are paved with white marble, sparkling under the sunlight to create an imposing and majestic appearance. When night falls, thousands of mercury lamps are lit to mimic daylight, creating an unusually solemn atmosphere. The Great Mosque of Mecca is also known as the Sacred Mosque, where, according to tradition, any act of violence, murder, theft, or violation is strictly forbidden. At the same time, this is a forbidden zone for non-Muslims. Along the highway leading into Mecca, you will encounter a grand, imposing gateway marking the beginning of the restricted area. From this point onward, only Muslims are allowed to proceed. Highway signs clearly designate routes for Muslims and bar entry to non-believers. According to Saudi Arabia's tourism regulations, foreigners are not permitted to enter Mecca or Medina. On the main roads near the sanctuary, religious police checkpoints are always present. If non-believers are found deliberately trespassing, they will be arrested, prosecuted, and immediately expelled. Islam has 3 most sacred sites, including Mecca, the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad; Medina, where the first Islamic state was established; Jerusalem, where the Prophet Muhammad performed the miraculous night journey. The pilgrimage to Mecca began more than 1,400 years ago with an inspection by the Prophet Muhammad in 632. Muhammad led a group of 100,000 devotees from Medina to Mecca to perform the pilgrimage. Upon arriving in Mecca, he led the devotees in circling the K 7 times, kissing the sacred black stone, praying at the spot once visited by the Prophet Ibrahim, and drinking water from the sacred Zamzam well. Afterwards, he led the group to run 7 times between the 2 hills, Safa and Marwa, then rested overnight at Mina, about 15 kilometers from Mecca. The next morning, the group arrived at Mount Arafat, also called the Mountain of Forgiveness, where they recited prayers and repented. After leaving Mount Arafat, the group spent the night at Muzdalifa, collecting stones along with their prayers. The following morning, at Mina, the devotees performed the ritual of stoning the devils by throwing small stones at 3 stone pillars symbolizing Satan. They then sacrificed animals and distributed the meat to the poor. Finally, Muhammad led the group back to Mecca, circling the K an additional 7 times, thus completing the entire ritual. Note that the pilgrimage is not only a commemoration of the Prophet Muhammad, but also a remembrance of the test that Allah set for the family of the Prophet Ibrahim. Today, although some rituals have changed slightly, practices such as circling the K, running between the two hills, and stoning the devils remain an integral part of the official pilgrimage, known as the Hajj, which takes place during the 12th month of the Islamic lunar calendar. Those who complete the Hajj are called pilgrims, symbolizing purity as unblemished as a newborn. The K, located at the center of the Great Mosque of Mecca, stands as a testament to its storied past. Before Islam emerged, the K was already present in Mecca and was believed to have been built by the Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail. However, during the era of Arabian polytheism, this site once housed more than 360 idols. In the 7th century, Muhammad led a religious revolution, annihilating polytheism and transforming Mecca into the center of Islam. He and his followers destroyed all the idols in the K, affirming the belief in monotheism and heralding the birth of a new religion. Once the wall paintings in the Kaaba were removed, the site was officially converted from a polytheistic altar into the holy sanctuary of Islam. Kaaba is a symbol of Allah, regarded as the house of the holy on earth. Wherever Muslims perform their prayers, they must face Kaaba. Interestingly, it was once calculated that the distance from Kaaba to the Earth's south pole is 12,361 kilometers, while to the North Pole it is 7,639 kilometers, a ratio of 10:618, exactly corresponding to the golden ratio. Kaaba is a cubic stone structure 13.1 meters tall, with a base measuring 12.62 meters wide, set on a marble platform about 25 centimeters high. Its four corners are named after geographical directions: the Iraq corner, the Syria corner, the Yemen corner, and the Da'den corner. At one of these corners, the black stone is set approximately 1.5 meters above the ground, and there is a 30 centimeters long black meteorite block encased in a silver frame. This is the sacred stone that the Prophet Muhammad once kissed, with Muslims believing that it originally was a pure white stone that gradually turned black due to the sins of mankind. According to the ritual, each person circling Kaaba must kiss the stone once. However, today, due to the overwhelming number of pilgrims, most can only gesture toward the stone in a sign of respect. To the northeast of Kaaba, there are two golden doors, 3 meters high and 2 meters wide, crafted from 286 kilograms of pure gold. Covering Kaaba is a layer of black silk embroidered with gold and silver threads bearing solemn inscriptions. This covering is replaced once a year, a tradition that has lasted over 1,400 years. Additionally, on the eastern side of Kaaba, there is a small golden frame called the Station of Ibrahim, where it is said that the Prophet Ibrahim left his footprints while building Kaaba. To the northwest of Kaaba is a semicircular stone structure known as Al-Hatim. Once part of Kaaba, it is now preserved separately. When circumambulating Kaaba, devotees are not allowed to pass through the area between Kaaba and Al-Hatim. About 20 meters from Kaaba, to the southeast, there is a sacred water basin called the Zamzam well, regarded as the source of blessed water in Islam. After circling Kaaba, many pilgrims drink from this well to seek blessings. Every year, only a select few Islamic leaders worldwide are invited into Kaaba by the King of Saudi Arabia. For most believers, the interior of Kaaba is known only through photos and videos, as Islam prohibits idol worship. Thus, there are no paintings, statues, or idols inside. The interior is very simple, featuring 3 large columns of agar wood supporting the roof, some decorative lamps hanging between them, and a marble floor. Between the 2 wooden columns is a small cabinet used to store various precious perfumes and incenses. Kaaba is cleaned twice a year, once in January and again in August, according to the Islamic calendar. During the cleaning process, Zamzam water, rose water, and various incenses are used to scrub the walls. After cleaning, the fragrance can linger for up to half a year. The main flag of Kaaba is located at the spot where the Prophet once prayed. However, inside, devotees may pray in any direction, as Kaaba itself is the focal point of all prayer. When you are here, you can feel the sanctity and mystique of Kaaba, a place that connects the heartfelt devotion of millions of believers around the world. To truly understand the power and authority of this place, we must understand the Prophet Ibrahim. Who was he? And what symbolic meanings do the rituals of the pilgrimage to Mecca carry? What really lies behind the concept of the Night of Miracles? Let us turn back more than 1,400 years to explore the origins of the earliest Islam. Islam, known in English as Islam, with its followers called Muslims, is one of the three major religions in the world, along with Buddhism and Christianity. In terms of the number of adherents, Islam is second with about 1.8 billion people, accounting for 24% of the world's population. According to statistics from a research center, in 2015, in a previous video I mentioned that most Muslims are peaceful and loving, though I received considerable criticism for that remark. However, I want to ask, if all 1.8 billion Muslims were terrorists, could we still live in peace today? Islam is divided into two main branches, Shia and Sunni. Among these, the Sunni branch accounts for about 90% of Muslims worldwide. The main difference between these two branches lies in their views on the successor of the Prophet Muhammad. The Shia believe that the position of Caliph, the legitimate successor of the Prophet, should be passed down through the family lineage, whereas the Sunnis believe that the Caliph should be chosen based on merit. This disagreement has led to religious conflicts spanning 1,400 years. Terrorist organizations such as the Islamic State emerged from the Sunni branch, but they represent an extremely small fraction and do not represent the entire Sunni community. The reason these extremist elements become dangerous is their belief that jihad is a sacred and glorious mission that will earn them tremendous rewards in paradise. In chapter 4, verse 74 of the Quran, it is written, "Whoever fights in the cause of Allah, whether killing or being killed, will receive an exalted reward from him." In chapter 52, it again mentions that those who revere Allah will be granted rewards in paradise and will have beautiful companions, as described in certain hadith texts within the Sunni tradition. It even states that the smallest reward in paradise is a palace with 80,000 servants and 72 wives. At first glance, this might make paradise seem full of temptations. Previously, we discussed how Christianity originated from Judaism, while Islam has its roots in ancient polytheism. This time, however, we will focus on the story of the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muhammad was born around 570 in Mecca, into the Hashim family of the Quraysh tribe, a family well known for its trading prowess. His father died before he was born, and his mother passed away when he was 16. He was then raised by his grandfather, but not long after, his grandfather too died. Muhammad was subsequently taken in by his uncle. Although he did not receive formal education and was illiterate, he learned through accompanying his uncle on trading journeys to Syria, Palestine, and many other regions, thereby broadening his horizons and coming into contact with major religions such as Judaism and Christianity. His upright character earned him respect, and people called him Amin, meaning trustworthy. One story tells that Muhammad once waited for a trading partner for 3 days at an agreed meeting spot. Although the partner forgot about the appointment, when he finally returned, Muhammad gently said, "Young man, I have been waiting for you here for 3 days." At the time of Muhammad's birth, the Arabian Peninsula was undergoing great turmoil. Most of the region was arid deserts and impoverished, where many lived as nomads, moving according to water sources and grazing lands. However, the geographical location of the peninsula was extremely important. It was a crossroads of trade between East and West, and became the object of contestation among major empires. From the latter half of the 6th century, the Byzantine Empire and the Sasanian Empire were in continuous conflict over control of this land. Prolonged wars disrupted the traditional trade routes along the Arabian Gulf, the Red Sea, and the Euphrates River. Merchants were forced to switch to safer routes, traveling through the western part of the Arabian Peninsula from Syria to Yemen, and then transporting goods between regions via the Indian Ocean. The city of Mecca, Muhammad's hometown, greatly benefited from this change, as it lay at the center of the route connecting the Arabian Gulf in the east, the Red Sea in the west, Syria in the north, and Yemen in the south. Thus, Mecca became more prosperous and bustling than ever. In 595, when Muhammad was 25 years old, during a trading journey he met a wealthy female merchant, 15 years his senior, named Khadija. Attracted by Muhammad's intelligence and talent, Khadija quickly married him. This marriage marked a major turning point in Muhammad's life. Having received no inheritance from his father or grandfather, Muhammad became wealthy through Khadija's assets. The two lived happily together and had 7 children, maintaining a monogamous relationship until Khadija's death in 619. After Khadija passed away, Muhammad began marrying several other women, totaling 11 wives and many concubines. Among them, his third wife, Aisha, was the one he loved the most, though she also sparked considerable controversy. The reason for this is that when engaged to Muhammad, Aisha was only 16 years old, and when she was 9, they began living together officially. This historical fact explains why child marriage continues to exist in some Muslim communities, as Muhammad himself once practiced it. After marrying Khadija, Muhammad no longer worried about financial matters. He had more time to reflect on life. It was during this period that Islam began to take shape according to Islamic tradition. In 610, when Muhammad was 40, while meditating in the cave of Hira near Mecca, the angel Jibril appeared and spoke to him, delivering the first revelations of the Quran. Jibril told Muhammad that he was the final prophet, sent by Allah to the earth with the mission of conveying his revelations. Since Muhammad was illiterate, the teachings he received were recorded by his disciples and later compiled into the Quran, the most important holy book in Islam. The Quran not only contains stories of creation, the end of the world, and the prophets, but also establishes clear regulations concerning economic and social activities. Unlike some other religions, Islam does not embrace asceticism. Although it emphasizes the afterlife, Islam does not dismiss worldly life. On the contrary, it encourages its followers to enjoy the material blessings bestowed by Allah, such as family, bountiful harvests, and livestock. However, Islam also teaches that eternal happiness in the afterlife does not depend on the amount of wealth one possesses, but on whether they maintain their faith and adhere to divine law. In many ways, the Quran is built upon a system of commerce and social order founded on trust and the proper fulfillment of contracts. Drawing from his extensive experience in trade, Muhammad understood that rebuilding social order on the foundation of faith would be more effective than trying to persuade an illiterate populace through lofty ideals. In theory, however, constructing a mythological system from scratch is no easy task. With his astuteness, Muhammad built upon the foundations of Judaism and Christianity to establish Islam. The biggest difference between Muhammad and Jesus Christ in Christianity is that Muhammad always emphasized that he was not divine. He was merely a messenger, a prophet sent by Allah to convey his message an ordinary human being. This is why depictions of the prophet are exceedingly rare in Islamic media, as Muslims believe that portraying him might lead to his veneration and thus obscure the supremacy of Allah. Islam includes many prophets, but Muhammad holds a special position as the final prophet, bearing the title Seal of the Prophets. This title ended the possibility of anyone after him claiming prophethood to found a new religion. Before Muhammad, there were other prophets such as Adam, Noah, Ibrahim, Moses, and Jesus, who are respectively referred to as Adam, Ibrahim, Musa, and Isa in the Quran. Although this comparison is only intended to aid understanding, the Quran and the Bible indeed share many similarities. Adam is the first human created by Allah, and in the Quran, Adam is likewise the first human created by Allah. Eve in the Bible and Hawa in the Quran are both created from one of Adam's ribs. Ibrahim in the Bible is considered the father of faith, while Ibrahim in the Quran is seen as the guide of humanity. Ibrahim's firstborn son, Ismail, corresponding to Ishmael in the Bible, is regarded as the ancestor of the Arabs, whereas his second son, Isaac, corresponding to Isaac in the Bible, is considered the ancestor of the Jews. However, there are also many differences between the Quran and the Bible. For example, in the Quran, Isa is not the son of Allah, but merely one of the prophets. Isa was not crucified, for Allah raised him up to heaven. Moreover, Islam emphasizes that Allah does not require any sacrifice to atone for human sins. What matters is sincere repentance and self-restraint. Allah's door of forgiveness is always wide open. Returning to Muhammad's story, in 610 when he was 40, he could not have imagined that his moment of meditation in the cave of Hira would lay the foundation for the eventual unification of the Arabian Peninsula. After receiving the revelations from Allah, Muhammad recounted his experience to those around him. As you might expect, most thought he was mad, though a few chose to believe him. Over time, the number of people who followed Muhammad steadily increased, particularly among young merchants, because the Quran elevates the status of merchants as the trusted envoys of Allah on earth. In its earliest days, Islam was born out of commerce and served the interests of trade. However, as Muhammad and his followers grew in power, they came into conflict with the interests of the Meccan aristocracy and the polytheistic believers of that era. The Kaaba still enshrined more than 360 idols of polytheistic deities. The Meccan elite exploited this idol worship for enormous profit. The monotheistic teachings of Islam clearly obstructed their paths to wealth. As a result, while some of the followers saw this as a test from Allah, many felt confused and agitated as their traditional beliefs began to waver. Muhammad then performed a miracle known as the Night of Miracles, as recorded in the Quran. On the night of the 27th day of the 7th month in 6-21, the angel Jibril was dispatched by Allah to Mecca, bringing with him the mythical creature Buak to carry Muhammad on Buak's back. Under the guidance of Zimu, Muhammad embarked on his miraculous journey. In the blink of an eye, he was transported to Anasa in Jerusalem, marking the beginning of the event known as the Isra. From Anasa, he rode the mythical steed Burak and ascended through the seven heavens, meeting previous prophets such as Musa, witnessing both paradise and hell, and finally encountering Allah, who declared, "If you all pray sincerely every day, I will lead you out of darkness and into the dawn." After this, Muhammad returned to Mecca, concluding the event known as the Ascension, the miracle of Isra and Ascension which reinforced his followers' faith and helped the fledgling community overcome its crisis. In 6-22, faced with threats from Meccan aristocrats plotting assassination, Muhammad and his followers migrated to Medina, about 320 kilometers from Mecca. Medina had recently experienced a civil war, and its people longed for a leader to bring peace and order. Muhammad was welcomed as a savior, and Medina became the first stronghold of the Islamic community. However, the Meccan aristocrats persistently opposed the expansion of Islam. In 625, with an army of 3,000, they attacked Medina. Muhammad led 1,000 of his followers into battle at Badr. The battle ended in a stalemate, but the Muslim forces suffered heavy losses with over 70 casualties, and Muhammad himself was injured in 627. After 2 years of preparation, the Meccan elite, with the support of local Jewish tribes, assembled an army of over 10,000 to besiege Medina. After a month of steadfast defense, the Muslim forces finally defeated the enemy. Yet Muhammad realized that to protect the community and consolidate power, he needed to subdue the tribes surrounding Medina. In 628, Muhammad launched military campaigns to conquer Jewish tribes such as Kaaba and expanded Islam's influence into Palestine and Syria. In 630, Muhammad led an army of more than 10,000 to march on Mecca. The Meccans quickly dispersed in the face of the overwhelming Muslim force, leaving Mecca virtually deserted. The Muslim army entered Mecca without encountering significant resistance. Once inside, Muhammad executed only a few extreme adversaries and those who had actively opposed Islam. He and his followers removed over 360 idols from the Kaaba, thereby re-establishing the site as the holy sanctuary of Islam. Within 10 years of migrating to Medina, Muhammad conducted 65 military campaigns, personally commanding 27 of them, and ignited a revolutionary fire throughout the Arabian Peninsula. In 632, Muhammad had unified nearly the entire Arabian Peninsula. He was not only a prophet but also an exceptional military leader. In that same year, Muhammad, along with a large group of his followers, performed the first pilgrimage to Mecca, marking the inaugural instance when the pilgrimage was exclusively reserved for Muslims. He declared that pilgrimage to Mecca is a mandatory religious duty for every Muslim, at least once in their lifetime. As mentioned earlier, the pilgrimage to Mecca also commemorates the trial that Allah set for the Prophet Ibrahim and his family long ago. Ibrahim and his wife, Sarah, longed for a child, but only after a long wait did Allah promise them a son. Sarah eventually gave birth to Isaac. Earlier, upon Sarah's advice, Ibrahim married Hagar, Sarah's servant, and she bore Ismail. However, tensions between Sarah and Hagar arose, forcing Ibrahim to send Hagar and Ismail to a desolate valley. Hagar ran back and forth between the two hills, Safa and Marwa, 7 times in search of water to save her son. Allah then guided her to a source of fresh water, the Zamzam well. Today, the ritual of running between the two hills during the pilgrimage symbolizes this very event. 10 years later, Allah ordered Ibrahim to sacrifice his son, Ismail, to test his devotion. When Ibrahim learned of Allah's command, he said, "Do not hesitate, fulfill his will." On the way to the place of sacrifice, Satan attempted to stop them, but was repelled by the stones they threw. This is the origin of the ritual of stoning during the pilgrimage. Ultimately, Allah intervened and provided a ram to be sacrificed in Ismail's stead. The ritual of sacrificing a ram during the pilgrimage also originates from this event. The unwavering faith of Ibrahim and his obedience to Allah, referred to in the Quran as the way of Ibrahim, became a symbol of absolute loyalty and submission to Allah. In 632, the farewell pilgrimage to Mecca, initiated by Muhammad, is known as the farewell pilgrimage, for not long after, he succumbed to a prolonged high fever and passed away on the 6th day of the 0th month of 632 at the home of his wife Aisha. Before his death, Muhammad did not designate a clear successor. This created considerable difficulties. At that time, Muslims controlled most of the cities on the Arabian Peninsula, with only sparse populations in the deserts and barren lands. A rudimentary Arab state began to form. However, without a clearly designated successor, the risk of collapse was very high. Soon after, disputes over Muhammad's successor broke out between two factions, the Shia and the Sunnis. Ultimately, through elections, 4 rightly guided caliphs successively led the Arab state from 632 to 661. This period is known as the era of the rightly guided caliphs. In just 30 years, Islam expanded rapidly, using the Arabian Peninsula as a springboard for conquest. The Muslim armies extended their territories to regions such as Armenia in the north, Egypt, Libya, and Tripoli in the west, and nearly the entire former Sasanian Empire in the east. After the era of the rightly guided caliphs, the Arab Empire continued to expand under the reigns of Uthman and Ali. At its peak, the empire covered an area of 13.4 million square kilometers, becoming one of the largest empires in history, stretching from east to west. However, in the early 13th century, the Mongol Empire rose to prominence. In 1258, a grandson of Genghis Khan launched a third invasion, and West Asia, including the Abbasid capital Baghdad, was completely destroyed, marking the collapse of the Arab Empire. Although that empire no longer exists, Islam has left behind an enormous legacy with 1.8 billion followers around the world. The number of pilgrims to Mecca has steadily increased. In 1920, there were just over 58,000 participants, but by 2012, this number reached a record 3.12 million. This massive influx places enormous pressure on the Great Mosque of Mecca. To better manage it, the Saudi government implements a quota system for pilgrims based on the Muslim population of each country, while continually expanding the Great Mosque. Today, the mosque has become a 4-story structure, allowing devotees to perform the circumambulation of the K on any floor. According to a report from the paper, religious activities in Mecca generate over $12 billion per year for Saudi Arabia, accounting for 20% of its total GDP. This massive flow of people also creates countless jobs, with more than 1,800 employees cleaning 4 times a day. The mosque uses over 40,000 prayer rugs, which, if laid end to end, would stretch the distance from Mecca to D. These rugs are meticulously cleaned using modern procedures, vacuuming, washing, drying, spraying with rose water, and careful storage during the pilgrimage season to serve the devotees. The mosque also provides 4 million meals per day, serves 1 million seedless dates, and prepares 25,000 water barrels for the pilgrims. Thus, the people of Mecca say, "The people of Mecca do not engage in commerce, they only serve the pilgrims." Perhaps Muhammad never imagined that his prophetic vision would eventually lead to the formation of a pilgrimage industry that has continuously generated enormous profits for Mecca over 1,400 years of Islam. Since its inception, Islam has fundamentally differed from Christianity and Buddhism. Initially, all 3 of these religions provided a spiritual anchor for the lower classes to overcome life's hardships. However, Christianity and Buddhism later developed with the backing of the ruling classes, eventually being exploited as tools by those in power. In contrast, Islam possesses a unique quality. Muhammad used the flame of religion to ignite a powerful Arab state, brimming with determination and faith. From the perspective of outsiders, the Quran can be seen as the crystallization of Muhammad's lifelong wisdom. This holy book not only guides its followers in spiritual matters, but also outlines over 500 laws governing every aspect of society, from ethics, criminal law, commerce, family, inheritance, to the rules of warfare. This dual nature has made Islam not just a religion, but also a political organization. Islam is like a closed operating system, clear and coherent. With the Quran in hand, even a few preachers can quickly transform a community with a low level of civilization into an advanced society with a complete political, military, economic, and cultural system. This is why Islam spread so rapidly and became one of the 3 largest religions in the world. However, its very closed nature conflicts with the complexities of the modern world. After World War II, fundamentalism spread throughout the Islamic world. The core ideology of this fundamentalism is quite simple. Those who do not wish to integrate will isolate themselves and return to their roots. Fundamentalists focus on preserving the original teachings of Muhammad from over 1,000 years ago, insisting that the pristine version of the Quran must remain unchanged in every letter. Unfortunately, a small number of extremist elements have exploited fundamentalism to carry out terrorist attacks in an effort to expand their influence. They call these actions jihad, but in truth, the original meaning of jihad is a struggle for the will of Allah, not a call to violence. In the Quran, chapter 5, verse 32 states, "Whoever kills an innocent person is as if he has killed all of humanity, and whoever saves a life is as if he has saved all of humanity." The Prophet Muhammad also taught that on the Day of Judgment, Allah will hold accountable those who have slain the innocent. Today, because of a tiny minority of extremist elements, over 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide have been mischaracterized and unfairly judged. As former Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew once said, "Islam itself is not the problem, but the current extremist fundamentalism within Islam is a real problem." This conflict is essentially a struggle between 2 factions: the conservative faction that wants to revert Islam to its 11th century state, and the modernist faction that envisions an Islam integrated with the 21st century one that can tackle terrorism by addressing its root causes. We must treat peaceful Muslims with tolerance and goodwill. When they feel accepted and integrated, they will be motivated to resist extremist elements and gradually reclaim their rightful place. What is your impression of Islam? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos. For now, goodbye and see you again.